The morning Ava Mitchell lost her last chance at a job, she took the only empty seat in a crowded cafe, never knowing the quiet man across from her owned the entire place and half the future she was trying not to lose. Rain comes down hard over Boston, turning the sidewalks silver and the traffic lights blurry behind sheets of water. Ava runs along Boylston Street with her coat pulled over her head, her old leather folder pressed against her chest, and one broken heel tapping unevenly against the pavement. Her phone battery is at 3%. Her hair is damp at the ends. Her blouse, the only interview blouse she owns, has a dark rain stain across one sleeve. 5 minutes ago, the design agency called to say the interview was canceled because she missed the grace period. Not postponed, not rescheduled, canceled. They were polite about it, which somehow made it worse. Ava had left 40 minutes early. The train stalled. The bus detoured. The rain did what rain does when life is already leaning against you. Now she stands beneath the striped awning of Harbor and Bean, blinking through the water on her lashes, trying not to cry in front of strangers who have warm coats, working umbrellas, and somewhere better to be. Inside the cafe, the air glows amber with hanging lights and smells like roasted coffee, cinnamon, and toasted bagels. Every table is taken. Students with laptops. Office workers with wireless earbuds. A mother folding a stroller near the door. 2 nurses laughing over paper cups. It is loud, warm, crowded, alive. Ava steps in anyway because outside is colder, and because her wallet holds exactly $5.12, enough for the smallest coffee on the menu if she skips lunch. The line moves slowly. She orders a small house coffee and asks for no extras. The cashier, barely looking up, writes something on the cup and slides it down the counter. Ava glances at it. Anna. Of course. Even her name cannot get a fair start today. She takes the cup in both hands and turns toward the room, searching for a corner, a ledge, a miracle. Nothing. Then she sees it. One empty chair at a small table near the fogged front window. Across from it sits a man in a black overcoat, early 40s maybe, clean-shaven, composed, with a silver laptop open in front of him and an untouched espresso beside his hand. He looks expensive in the quiet way, not flashy, just impossible to imagine on a delayed bus. Ava hesitates. The chair is probably saved. The man is probably waiting for someone. But her feet ache. Her folder is getting soft at the edges, and the coffee is burning her fingers through the cardboard sleeve. She walks over before her courage can change its mind. "Excuse me," she says, voice careful. "Is this seat taken?" The man looks up. His eyes are blue-gray, tired, and sharper than she expects, like he has spent the morning reading bad news and pretending it is only data. For half a second, his gaze moves to the chair, then back to her wet coat, her shaking hands, the folder clutched too tightly against her ribs. It is clear he is about to say yes. Instead, he reaches across the table and pulls the chair out with a quiet scrape against the floor. "No, please sit." Ava lets out a breath she did not know she was holding. "Thank you. I promise I will not bother you." He almost smiles. "That would make you the only person in here making that promise." She sits, placing her folder on her lap because the table looks too polished for her messy morning. The cup slips slightly in her hand, and he steadies it before it tips, his fingers barely touching the cardboard. "Anna?" he asks, reading the name. Ava closes her eyes for one beat, then opens them with a tired little smile. Ava. But apparently the universe prefers Anna. He glances at the cup again. The universe has poor handwriting. A laugh escapes her before she can stop it. It is small, but real, and it surprises them both. Across from her, Daniel Whitmore studies her with a curiosity he has not felt in months. To the city, he is the founder and chief executive officer of Whitmore Hospitality Group, the millionaire behind hotels, restaurants, and the Harbor and Bean Café chain stretching from Boston to Chicago. To the board, he is a problem solver. To investors, an asset. To his public relations director, an image that must be polished, managed, and never left alone in a crowded cafe. But this morning, he told his driver to circle the block and walked into this location without warning because customer numbers had been falling and staff complaints had been getting buried under cheerful reports. He expected weak management, slow service, maybe bad lighting. He did not expect a soaked young woman with a wrong name on her cup and defeat trembling in her hands. Ava takes a careful sip of coffee and winces at the bitterness. Daniel notices. Long morning? He asks. She looks toward the rain streaking the window. Long month wearing a morning costume. Then she catches herself. Sorry, you did not ask for my life story with your espresso. I asked if it was a long morning. That is usually how stories begin. Ava studies him now. Not nosy, not smug, just listening. So she gives him the safe version. Missed interview. Dead phone. Wet shoes. $5 pretending to be a financial plan. His expression shifts, but not into pity. That matters. I am sorry, he says. She shrugs, trying to make it light. It is fine. I am very experienced at almost getting opportunities. As she adjusts the folder on her lap, a worn sketchbook slides free and lands open on the floor between them. Daniel bends to pick it up, and for one quiet second, the noisy cafe fades. The page shows a hand-drawn coffee shop interior, warm wood shelves, chalkboard menus, window seats, paper pastry bags with little harbor birds printed on them, and a corner labeled community table. It is harbor and bean, but softer, kinder, more human. Ava reaches for it quickly, cheeks flushing. Sorry, that is nothing. Daniel does not let go right away. Nothing does not usually have this much thought in it. She pulls the sketchbook back, embarrassed, and closes it against her chest. It is just something I do when I am nervous. Redesign places I cannot afford to belong in. Daniel looks around his own cafe, then back at her, and for the first time in a long time, the room does not feel like a business. It feels like a place someone could save. Ava has no idea the man sharing her tiny table can change everything with one phone call. And Daniel has no idea the girl with the wrong name on her cup is about to make him question what his company has become. Daniel Whitmore has spent years learning how to read a room, but Ava Mitchell makes him forget the rules for almost 3 full seconds. She is sitting across from him with wet hair tucked behind one ear, one hand wrapped around a $5 coffee, the other guarding her sketchbook as if it holds both a secret and a wound. Around them, harbor and bean keeps moving in noisy little circles. The espresso machine hisses. A college student laughs too loudly near the window. Someone calls for a medium latte, extra foam. Outside, rain turns the morning traffic into streaks of red and white. But inside this tiny table, something slows. Daniel looks at the cup in Ava's hand, the name Anna written in thick black marker, and then at the sketchbook pressed to her chest. You redesign places when you are nervous? He asks. Ava gives him a sideways look. That sounds ridiculous when someone else says it. It did not look ridiculous. She lowers her eyes, and for a moment, he sees the battle on her face, the part of her that wants to dismiss herself before anyone else gets the chance. It is just a habit, she says. My mom used to take me to diners and coffee shops when I was little. She would ask me what I would change if the place were mine. I thought it was a game. Later I realized she was teaching me to notice how a room makes people feel. Daniel glances around the cafe, trying to see it through her eyes instead of through quarterly reports. The chairs are stylish but stiff. The lighting is warm near the counter, but cold near the back wall. The pickup area is crowded enough that customers bump shoulders while pretending not to be annoyed. The space is profitable on paper, yet somehow lonely in person. And Ava saw it in one drawing. What does this room feel like to you? He asks. Ava hesitates, then laughs under her breath. Are you sure you want an honest answer? Usually. That is a dangerous word. He leans back slightly. I can handle it. She studies the cafe with the seriousness of someone who has spent her life wanting to belong in rooms that did not make space for her. It feels like it was designed by someone who likes coffee, but does not like people who drink it. Daniel goes still, then lets out a quiet laugh before he can stop himself. Ava winces. I am sorry. That was rude. No, he says. That was very specific. Specific is not always polite. It is usually useful. Her shoulders relax a little. Well, the tables are too close to the line, so everyone feels watched. The chairs look nice, but nobody wants to stay. The menu board is hard to read if you are not already sure what you want. And that corner over there could be a perfect reading nook, but right now it looks like the place where plants go to give up. Daniel follows her gaze to a sad potted fern drooping under a black metal shelf. He has paid consultants thousands of dollars for reports less honest than this. Ava takes another sip of coffee, then makes a face before she can hide it. Too bitter? He asks. It is fine. That means yes. It means I paid for it, so I respect it. Daniel smiles, then pushes his untouched espresso slightly away. I never asked what you were interviewing for. Junior visual designer. A small branding agency near Copley Square. Not glamorous, but it was a foot in the door. She taps the sketchbook once. I do invitations, hand lettering, little logos for people who cannot pay much, but still want something that feels like them. My dream is to build a small studio one day. Nothing huge. Just honest work. Honest work, Daniel repeats, and the phrase lands in him harder than it should. He thinks of the message waiting on his laptop from Vanessa Cole, his public relations director, reminding him that the Harbor and Bean rebrand must feel upscale, aspirational, and emotionally premium. He thinks of board members who believe warmth can be purchased if the color palette is right. Then he looks at Ava, who has just described belonging better than any strategy deck he has seen all year. What about you? She asks. Daniel pauses. He can tell her the truth. He can say, I own this cafe. I own the brand on your cup. I could send one email and put your sketchbook in front of the people who just canceled on you. Instead, he hears himself choose the smaller version. I work in hospitality. Ava nods, immediately placing him somewhere ordinary in her mind. Hotel manager? Restaurant operations? Something like that. Sounds stressful. It can be. People are hard to please. Maybe because they are not really asking for coffee, she says. Maybe they are asking for 5 minutes where life does not feel so loud. Daniel looks at her, and something in his chest shifts. Before he can answer, a young barista near the counter drops a sleeve of cups. They scatter across the floor, and a man in a navy suit snaps. Seriously? The barista flushes bright red, kneeling quickly, hands shaking as the line grows restless. Ava is up before Daniel moves. She crosses the cafe, bends to help gather the cups, and says something soft enough that only the barista hears. The girl breathes, nods, and manages a small smile. Ava returns a minute later with wet knees, a colder coffee, and no performance of goodness. Daniel watches her sit like nothing happened. You do that often? He asks. Do what? Make people feel less alone in public. Ava looks embarrassed. I know what it is like to have one bad moment become everybody's entertainment. Daniel closes his laptop. The meeting he was supposed to join can wait. The reports can wait. For the first time in months, maybe years, he is more interested in the person across from him than the numbers in front of him. Ava's phone lights up, flickers at 1%, then dies. She sighs. Perfect. Daniel reaches into his bag and sets a small portable charger on the table. Take it. I have another one. She hesitates. I can give it back tomorrow if I end up in this neighborhood again. Tomorrow, Daniel says, too quickly. Then he softens his voice. I mean, I am usually here in the mornings. Same table? Ava asks. If it is not taken. She glances at the chair beneath her, then at him. Well, it was the last seat today. Maybe that makes it lucky. Daniel looks at the cup with the wrong name, the sketchbook with the right vision, and the woman who sees forgotten corners better than his own company sees entire customers. Maybe, he says. Ava leaves 20 minutes later with her phone charging in her pocket, her folder under her arm, and one small smile she does not fully trust yet. Daniel stays behind, staring at the fern in the corner, then sends one message to his assistant. Cancel my 10 o'clock. I need a full report on this location, staff conditions included. He does not mention Ava. Not yet. But on his napkin, without thinking, he writes 2 words that feel less like business and more like a warning to himself. Remember her. The next morning, Daniel arrives at Harbor and Bean 15 minutes before 8, which is ridiculous because he has not arrived early anywhere without a strategic reason in almost 10 years. His driver pauses at the curb 2 blocks away because Daniel asked to walk, and for once, the city feels better at street level than it does from behind tinted glass. Boston is still damp from the storm, with puddles shining near the crosswalks and steam rising from the grates in pale ribbons. He wears a simple dark coat, no tie, no watch expensive enough to start conversations, and he tells himself this is another inspection. Nothing more. He is here because the cafe has weak numbers, staff complaints, and a tired interior that one unemployed designer spotted in less than 10 minutes. He is not here because Ava Mitchell promised to return his charger. He is not here because he wants to hear her laugh again when the cashier gets her name wrong. Inside, the morning rush is already building. The same sad fern droops in the corner. The same narrow pickup counter traps customers in a frustrated little crowd. Behind the register, the young barista Ava helped yesterday keeps her smile too tight, like a person bracing for criticism before it arrives. Daniel orders a regular coffee under the name Dan, because Daniel Whitmore would make the manager stand straighter, and he needs to see the truth before people dress it up for him. The cashier writes Don on the cup. Daniel looks at it and almost smiles. Maybe Harbor and Bean has a problem with names, not just branding. He takes the same table near the window. The last chair across from him is empty. At 8:17, Ava rushes in with her sketchbook held over her head like a tiny roof, cheeks pink from the cold, coat buttoned wrong, and determination written all over her face. She scans the room, sees him, and lifts the portable charger in one hand. "I brought your very fancy little brick back," she says, breathless. "It saved my phone and possibly my dignity." Daniel stands, pulling out the chair before she can ask. "Good morning, Ava." She glances at his cup. "Don." He looks down at the wrong name. Apparently, the universe has expanded its attack. Ava laughs, and just like yesterday, the sound makes the crowded room feel briefly less sharp. She sits across from him, but this time she places the sketchbook on the table instead of hiding it. That small act of trust lands heavily in Daniel's chest. "Did you find another interview?" he asks. "2 applications, 1 automated rejection, and 1 woman who said they loved my portfolio but needed someone with more proven experience." Ava taps the sketchbook, which is a professional way of saying, "Please already have the job before asking for the job." Daniel nods slowly. Experience can be a locked door pretending to be a qualification. She points at him with the lid of her coffee. "That sounds like something a manager would say after firing someone politely." "Hospitality, remember?" he says. "Right. Mysterious hospitality man. Do you run a hotel lobby or judge napkin folds for a living?" "Something between those two." Ava narrows her eyes, playful but curious. "You dodge questions like you have legal training." Daniel feels the old reflex rise, the polished answer, the half-truth built to sound harmless. But before he can speak, the cafe manager steps behind the counter and snaps at the young barista for mixing up a mobile order. The girl apologizes twice. The manager keeps going, voice low enough to seem professional, but sharp enough to make the nearest customers look down at their cups. Ava's smile fades. Daniel watches too, every detail locking into place. The rushed staff, the fear, the way the manager turns warmth into efficiency and calls it leadership. This is not just a design problem. It is a culture problem. Ava leans toward him and whispers, "That is why the place feels cold." Not the chairs. Him. Daniel looks at her. "You noticed that yesterday?" "I notice people who make rooms smaller. My dad used to say a good boss makes work feel possible, even when it is hard." He was a plumber. Ran a tiny crew. Nothing fancy. But every guy who worked for him came to our house for Thanksgiving at least once. Daniel thinks of the executives waiting for him downtown. The ones who speak of labor cost and customer flow without ever learning who stands behind the counter. He thinks of Vanessa Cole, who has already sent 3 messages about the rebrand meeting. By 9, Daniel is supposed to approve a concept called elevated urban comfort, full of cold bronze lettering and staged photographs of people smiling at coffee they have not tasted. Across from him, Ava opens her sketchbook to a page she is no longer trying to hide. "If this were mine," she says, "I would move the pickup counter here, add a soft bench along the window, use warmer menu boards, and put a community table in the center. People alone would not feel stranded. People together would not feel rushed." Daniel studies the drawing. It is simple, affordable, practical, and somehow more alive than anything his design team has sent him. "You could do this professionally," he says. Ava smiles without looking up. "I am trying." There is no self-pity in it, and that makes him admire her more. His phone vibrates. Vanessa's name lights the screen. Then his assistant. Then Vanessa again. Ava sees the calls, and a little wall goes up behind her eyes. "Busy morning?" "Always." "Important?" Daniel looks at the screen, then turns it face down. "Not more important than this." She holds his gaze for a second, and the wall lowers, not all the way, but enough. That afternoon, Daniel walks into Whitmore Hospitality headquarters with Ava's sketch still in his mind and the cafe's tension still under his skin. The lobby staff greets him by name. Executives follow him into the elevator. On the 27th floor, Vanessa waits outside his office in a cream suit with a tablet in her hand and impatience sharpened into a smile. "We have been looking for you," she says. "I was at Harbor and Bean." Her smile freezes. "Alone?" Daniel passes her without answering. In the conference room, The rebrand boards are already displayed. Sleek fonts, expensive packaging, perfect models, no soul. Vanessa begins explaining market position, but Daniel barely hears her. All he can see is Ava's page, the window bench, the community table, the wrong name on the coffee cup that somehow felt more human than every perfect logo in the room. He picks up one presentation board and sets it aside. Start over, he says. Vanessa blinks. Excuse me? This looks like it was designed for investors, not customers. I want warmth. I want honesty. I want the stores to feel like someone would stay there on the worst morning of their life and still feel welcome. No one speaks. Vanessa's eyes narrow with interest. That is oddly specific. Daniel looks out toward the city, where somewhere below, Ava Mitchell is carrying a sketchbook full of places kinder than the ones he owns. Yes, he says quietly. It is. By the fourth morning, Ava knows the rhythm of Harbor and Bean better than some of the people paid to run it. The first rush hits at 7:30, when commuters flood in with tight faces and quiet impatience. The college students arrive closer to 8, spreading notebooks across tiny tables as if claiming islands. The lonely ones come later, after the line thins, choosing window seats and holding warm cups with both hands. Ava notices all of them because noticing has always been the one talent no rejection letter can take from her. Daniel notices Ava noticing. He sits across from her at the same small table near the fogged window, a plain coffee in front of him under another wrong name, David this time, and watches as she sketches between sips, adding small details to the cafe no consultant would think to include. A lower hook for heavy coats, a softer lamp near the back wall, a chalkboard that says today is hard, coffee helps. When she writes that last line, she smiles to herself, and Daniel feels a strange ache under his ribs. You are making it impossible for me to enjoy bad design ever again, he says. Ava does not look up. Good. Bad design has had too much freedom. He laughs, quiet enough not to draw attention, but loud enough that she glances at him with surprise. You should laugh more, she says. It makes you look less like you are about to fire an entire department. Daniel nearly chokes on his coffee. That's specific? Very specific. You have a face. What face? The face of a man who says things like, circle back, but means, I am disappointed in everyone. Daniel looks toward the window to hide his smile. Ava has no idea how accurate she is. Downtown, his assistant is currently delaying 3 meetings. Vanessa is demanding approval on a revised concept, and the regional manager of Harbor and Bean has sent a report claiming staff morale is excellent. Excellent, while the young barista flinches every time her manager says her name. Excellent, while the cafe feels like a warm room run by cold hands. At 8:15, the same manager snaps at an older customer for standing at the wrong pickup spot. The man apologizes, embarrassed, his cane tapping lightly against the floor as he steps back. Ava is out of her chair before Daniel can move. She does not make a scene. She simply picks up the man's coffee, reads the name clearly, and says, Mr. Harris, I think this one is yours. The older man smiles with relief. Thank you, sweetheart. Ava smiles back. Best part of the morning is finding the right cup. When she returns to the table, Daniel is looking at her in a way that makes her suddenly self-conscious. What? She asks. Nothing. That was not nothing. You turned an awkward moment into a kind one. Ava shrugs, but her cheeks warm. It cost $0. People forget those are the best fixes. Daniel looks down at the table, and for once, he has no polished answer. Over the next 3 mornings, their conversations stretch from whether to work to the kind of truths people only share when the noise around them makes privacy feel accidental. Ava tells him her father raised her after her mother left when she was 12, and how he smelled like copper pipes and peppermint gum when he came home from long plumbing jobs. She tells him he used to fix sinks for families who could not pay right away and call it community maintenance. Daniel tells her his father built his first hotel with borrowed money and impossible rules, then taught Daniel that being respected mattered more than being loved. Did you believe him? Ava asks. For a long time. And now? Daniel watches the barista laugh softly with Mr. Harris near the counter because Ava introduced them by name yesterday. Now I think respect without warmth turns every room into a lobby. Ava goes quiet at that. It is the first thing he has said that feels less like mystery and more like a door opening. On the 7th morning, the cafe is packed, rain threatening again outside. and Ava arrives carrying a small paper sleeve from a discount print shop. She slides it across the table like it is not a big deal, but her fingers hover a second too long before letting go. Daniel opens it and finds a clean copy of her Harbor and Bean redesign, hand-colored with warm browns, deep greens, and little gold accents around the menu board. In the corner, she has drawn the last seat at their table with a tiny note beside it. Leave one place for the person who almost turned around. Daniel reads it twice. His throat tightens in a way that surprises him. This is beautiful, he says. It is practice. It is more than practice. Ava lifts one shoulder, trying to make the compliment smaller. Maybe. I was thinking of sending it to the company, if I can find a real email and not just the customer complaint form. Daniel's hand stills on the page. The truth stands between them, close enough now to cast a shadow. He could tell her. He should tell her. Instead, before he can choose courage, a sharp voice cuts through the cafe. The young barista has spilled a tray of drinks after the manager crowded behind her too quickly. A woman in line groans. The manager starts to scold. Ava rises immediately, but this time Daniel rises too. His chair scrapes back, and the authority he has been hiding slips into the room before his name does. That is enough, he says, calm but firm. The manager turns, irritated. Sir, please let us handle our staff. Daniel's eyes do not move from him. That is exactly the problem. Ava looks at Daniel, startled by the sudden change in his voice, by how every nearby employee seems to sense something before she does. The manager opens his mouth, then stops when Daniel takes out his phone and makes one quiet call. Meredith, send human resources to Harbor and Bean on Boylston. Now, Ava feels the world tilt slightly. Meredith? Human resources? Daniel ends the call and turns back to her, the mask gone, regret already gathering in his eyes. Ava whispers, "Who are you?" But before he can answer, Vanessa Cole walks through the front door in a cream coat, two executives behind her, and says, Daniel, the board has been waiting for 20 minutes. The cafe falls into a stunned silence. Ava looks from Vanessa to Daniel, then down at the sketch on the table between them. The last seat suddenly does not feel lucky. It feels like the place where a secret finally sat down across from her. For one suspended second, the cafe becomes so quiet that Ava can hear rain beginning again against the front window. Daniel stands beside the spilled drinks with his phone still in his hand, the manager frozen near the counter, the young barista staring at him as if the air around him has changed shape. Vanessa Cole waits near the entrance in her cream coat, polished, impatient, and completely certain she belongs in every room she enters. The board has been waiting, she repeats, softer this time, but somehow sharper. Daniel does not look at her. He looks only at Ava, and the regret in his face arrives before any explanation can. Ava, I should have told you. Ava lets out a small breath that is almost a laugh, but there is no humor in it. Told me what? That you are not a hotel manager? That human resources jumps when you make a phone call? That people in $1,000 coats walk into coffee shops to collect you? Vanessa lifts one eyebrow, studying Ava now, noticing the damp coat, the cheap coffee, the sketch spread across the table, and the way Daniel is standing too close to apology. Daniel, we need to go. Now. Daniel's voice stays calm, but the old authority is back. Wait outside. Vanessa's smile tightens. This is not the time. It is exactly the time, Daniel says, and the words land hard enough that even the manager looks away. Vanessa turns and steps outside with the executives, but her eyes linger on Ava's sketch before she leaves. Ava sees it. She sees everything now. The chair, the coffee, the questions he dodged, the way he listened like her opinions mattered because maybe they were useful. Her face warms with embarrassment first, then hurt. I cannot do this here, she whispers. Daniel reaches toward the table, not touching her, not trapping her, just desperate to slow the moment down. Please let me explain. Are you important at Whitmore? The question is quiet. Daniel's silence is the answer she does not want. Ava nods, gathers her folder with shaking hands, and reaches for her sketch. But the page Daniel was holding slides beneath his laptop when the manager steps aside and a customer bumps the chair. Ava, overwhelmed by the watching faces, does not notice. She only grabs the sketchbook itself, closes it against her chest, and backs away. Thank you for the charger, she says, because politeness is the last piece of dignity she can hold without crying. Then she walks out into the rain before Daniel can tell her his full name. By the time he reaches the sidewalk, she is already halfway down the block, head low, coat pulled tight, disappearing into the gray crowd. Daniel could follow her. Every part of him wants to. But behind him, the barista is still trembling. The manager is calling someone in a panic, and Vanessa is standing beneath the awning with her tablet pressed to her chest like a shield. If you chase her, Vanessa says under her breath, you create a story. Daniel turns to her. There is already a story. You just have not understood who it belongs to. He goes back inside, removes the manager from the floor pending review, gives the young barista the rest of the day off with pay, and asks Meredith from Human Resources to interview every employee privately. He does the right things in the wrong order, and that is what hurts. Because by the time the cafe settles, Ava is gone. Her coffee cup marked Anna sits in the trash. Her chair is empty, and on the table, half hidden beneath the silver laptop, is the clean color copy of her redesign. Daniel picks it up carefully. The paper is still warm from where the coffee cup rested near one corner. Leave one place for the person who almost turned around. He reads the note again, then slips the page into a plain folder, intending to return it the next morning with the truth, the whole truth, no polished edges. But the morning does not wait for honest intentions. At Whitmore headquarters, Vanessa moves faster than conscience. She has watched Daniel reject the official rebrand. She has watched him defend a stranger in one of his own cafes. She has watched the board grow restless while their usually controlled chief executive officer vanishes into morning visits and vague instructions about warmth. So when Daniel is pulled into emergency meetings, Vanessa asks his assistant for the folder from Harbor and Bean, saying Daniel requested it for the creative team. No one questions her. People rarely question someone who sounds like she has already been approved. In the design room, she lays Ava's page under bright white lights. The creative director studies it and says, this feels closer to what Daniel described. Vanessa taps one manicured finger on the hand-drawn window bench, the community table, the little harbor birds on the pastry bags. Then use the spirit, not the mess. Clean it up. Make it ours. The director hesitates. Do we have usage rights? Vanessa's smile is cool and practiced. It came from Daniel's folder. That is all you need to know. Across Boston, Ava sits on the floor of her studio apartment with her sketchbook open, trying to convince herself she has not been foolish. The radiator clicks beside the wall. Her wet shoes sit near the door. Her phone is plugged into the borrowed charger she had returned too soon, and the silence feels bigger than the room. She flips through the sketchbook, page after page, until her fingers stop. The clean Harbor and Bean copy is missing. She checks her folder, her bag, the floor. Nothing. A cold feeling moves through her. She left it on the table. With him. She tells herself it is only one page. One idea. One small dream drawn in warm brown and green. But it was the first idea she had almost believed might be good enough. The next morning, Ava returns to Harbor and Bean before sunrise, telling herself she only wants the page back. Daniel is not there. A different shift lead is working. When Ava asks about a drawing left at the window table, the woman lowers her voice and says someone from corporate collected everything after yesterday. Corporate. The word feels like a door closing. Ava steps outside with her sketchbook pressed to her chest and looks through the cafe window at the last seat, now taken by a stranger in a navy scarf. She does not know that Daniel is downtown searching for her contact information without crossing a line he no longer trusts himself to see. She does not know Vanessa has already turned her sketch into a campaign board. And she does not know that the next time she sees her dream, it will be glowing on a ballroom screen with someone else's name attached to it. 3 weeks pass before Ava Mitchell sees the invitation that changes everything, and it does not arrive like a miracle. It arrives through a staffing agency email at 11:43 at night, while she is sitting cross-legged on her apartment floor, eating toast over a paper towel because every clean plate is still in the sink. One night event staff needed, the message says, hospitality brand launch. Downtown Boston Hotel. $26 an hour. Black slacks, white shirt, comfortable shoes. Ava almost deletes it because the word hospitality still feels like a bruise, but $26 an hour is not something pride can afford to ignore. Her rent is due in 5 days. Her phone bill is already late. The design agencies have gone quiet. and her missing Harbor and Bean sketch has become a small ache she carries around like a stone in her pocket. So she replies yes. On Thursday evening, she arrives at the Grand Tremont Hotel under a pale gold sunset, wearing the white blouse she ironed twice and the black flats she hopes will survive 4 hours on marble floors. The hotel lobby is all chandeliers, cream walls, and flowers so perfect they almost look unreal. Everything shines. The brass elevator doors, the polished piano near the lounge, the silver trays lined up in the service corridor. Ava signs in with the event coordinator, pins on a temporary name tag that actually says Ava, and feels a strange, bitter relief at being called by the right name in a place where nobody knows her. The ballroom doors open, and sound spills out first. Soft jazz, low conversations, ice clinking in glasses, expensive laughter that never seems to worry about being too loud. Ava is handed a tray of miniature pastries and told to circulate near the left side of the room. She steps inside and stops for half a second. Across the ballroom, a massive screen glows behind the stage with the words Harbor and Bean, a new chapter in everyday hospitality. Her stomach tightens. She tells herself it is coincidence. Harbor and Bean is a chain. Of course there are events. Of course there are launches. She is only working. Smile. Serve. Leave. Then the screen changes. Wormwood shelves. A window bench. Chalkboard menus. Deep green accents. Little harbor birds printed on pastry bags. A community table in the center. Ava's hand tightens around the tray so quickly that a lemon tart slides against its paper cup. The room tilts, just slightly, but enough that she has to lock her knees. It is her drawing. Cleaner, sharper, more corporate, but hers. The corner she imagined. The colors she chose. The idea she lost on that cafe table. Only now it is glowing 20 feet high beneath the Whitmore Hospitality logo, while strangers nod, as if a team in a glass office invented the feeling of warmth. A woman on stage speaks into a microphone, elegant in a cream suit Ava recognizes even before the name appears on the screen. Vanessa Cole, Senior Director of Brand Strategy. Vanessa smiles like she is unveiling kindness itself. Tonight, Harbor and Bean returns to what customers have been asking for all along, she says. A place to pause. A place to belong. A place with one seat waiting for you. Ava nearly drops the tray. One seat waiting for you. The line from her sketch. Not exact, but close enough to steal the breath from her chest. She turns toward the exit, suddenly needing air more than the hourly wage, but applause rises, and people shift toward the stage. Then Vanessa's voice brightens. Please welcome the founder and chief executive officer of Whitmore Hospitality Group, Daniel Whitmore. The room stands. Ava does not. Daniel walks onto the stage in a dark suit, composed beneath the lights. Every inch the man she had not wanted to believe he was. Cameras lift. The applause grows. For a moment, he scans the ballroom with the practiced calm of someone used to being watched. Then he sees her. The calm breaks. It is small, but Ava sees it because she knows his face from a tiny table near a rainy window. She knows the version of him who laughed at wrong names, who listened to her talk about rooms that felt lonely, who looked at her sketch like it mattered. Daniel's eyes move from Ava to the screen behind him, and something changes. Confusion first, then recognition, then a kind of horror so real that Ava understands one terrible thing and one painful thing at the same time. He may not have known, but it still happened because of him. Vanessa continues speaking, unaware or unwilling to care. This rebrand represents Daniel's vision for a warmer, more human future. Daniel turns slowly toward her. My vision? He asks, but the microphone catches only a low edge of it. Vanessa's smile tightens. Ava sets the tray down on the nearest service table before her hands betray her completely. Daniel steps away from the podium, but a board member catches his sleeve, whispering urgently. Ava cannot stay. She moves toward the side doors, but Vanessa spots her name tag, then her face, then the recognition in her eyes. For 1 second, Vanessa understands exactly who she is. The smile returns, colder now. Miss, Vanessa says lightly from the stage. Staff exits are to the rear. Several guests turn. Heat rushes into Ava's cheeks. Daniel looks sharply toward Vanessa, then back at Ava. He leaves the stage. The room murmurs as he crosses the ballroom, faster than a man trying to protect a program should move. Ava, he says when he reaches her, voice low and strained. Please, let me explain. She looks at the screen, then at him. Explain what part? That you forgot to tell me you own the cafe, or that my sketch somehow became your future? Daniel's face loses color. I did not approve this. But your company did. Her voice stays quiet, and that makes the accusation cut deeper. I sat across from you with $5 in my wallet and showed you the only dream I had left. Was any of it real, or was I just free research? Around them, conversations stop in widening circles. Phones tilt. Vanessa descends from the stage with a public smile and private warning in her eyes. Daniel, she says, we can handle this later. Ava takes one step back. That is what people like you always say when someone like me notices what was taken. Daniel turns to Vanessa, and his voice is controlled but no longer gentle. Did you use her work? Vanessa's smile flickers. The creative direction came from your folder. That is not an answer. It is the answer we need in this room. Ava hears enough. She pulls off the temporary name tag, places it on the service table beside the untouched pastries, and walks toward the ballroom doors with every ounce of dignity she has left. Daniel starts after her, but she stops without turning around. Do not follow me unless you are ready to say the truth where everyone can hear it. Then she steps into the hallway, leaving Daniel under the chandeliers, surrounded by applause that has curdled into whispers, with her stolen dream shining behind him and the last seat between them suddenly feeling farther away than ever. Ava does not run from the ballroom, because running would make the people behind her feel right. She walks, one step, then another, down the wide hotel corridor where the carpet is soft enough to swallow the sound of her shoes, and the walls are lined with framed photographs of weddings, charity dinners, and smiling executives who never seem to spill coffee on their sleeves or lose pieces of themselves at crowded tables. Her hands are shaking, so she curls them into fists at her sides. Behind the ballroom doors, the murmurs rise and fall like a storm trapped under glass. She hears Daniel's voice once, low and sharp, then Vanessa's, smoother, colder. Ava keeps walking until she reaches a quiet service hallway near the elevators, where the music fades and the scent of expensive flowers gives way to floor cleaner and warm metal. Only then does she stop. Her chest aches as if she has been holding her breath since the screen lit up with her stolen dream. Free research. The words echo back at her, and she hates that she said them in front of strangers, hates even more that she meant them. For 3 weeks, she told herself Daniel's secret was only about status, maybe embarrassment, maybe a rich man pretending to be ordinary because ordinary felt easier for an hour. But the screen changed everything. The window bench, the community table, the tiny harbor birds, the line about one seat waiting. Those were not accidents. Those were pieces of her mind polished until they looked expensive enough to belong to someone else. She presses her palms against her eyes, refusing to cry where a hotel employee might find her and ask if she needs assistance in the careful tone people use when they want a problem to move somewhere else. The elevator dings. Ava lowers her hands. Daniel steps out alone, breath uneven, no public smile left, no microphone, no stage lights. He stops several feet away. You told me not to follow unless I was ready to tell the truth where everyone could hear it, he says. Ava's voice is flat. This hallway is not everyone. I know. He looks back toward the ballroom doors. I stopped the presentation. Ava laughs once, small and tired. Congratulations. My dream got a pause button. Daniel flinches, but he does not defend himself. I did not know Vanessa had used your work, but I had your page. It was in my folder. It came from me, even if I did not hand it to them with permission. That responsibility is mine. Ava looks at him then, really looks, searching for the man from the cafe, and finding him buried under a last name that opens doors too easily. Why did you not tell me who you were? Because I liked how you looked at me before you knew. The answer is too honest, and for 1 second it steals the anger from her face, replacing it with something more painful. Daniel swallows. Everyone in my world wants something. A contract. A favor. Access. You sat across from me with a wrong name on your cup and told me my own cafe felt cold. You were the first person in a long time who saw the room instead of the title. Ava's eyes shine, but her voice stays steady. And you liked it so much you let me keep being the only person at that table without the truth. Yes, he says quietly. And I am sorry. The ballroom doors open before she can answer. Vanessa appears with 2 board members behind her, her expression polished into concern for anyone watching from a distance. Daniel, We need to return before this becomes worse. Then she turns to Ava with a soft smile that never reaches her eyes. Miss Mitchell, I understand this evening has been emotional for you. Ava goes still. Emotional. The word lands like a label, slapped over evidence. Vanessa continues, some creative people feel attached to broad concepts. But cafe warmth, community seating, hand-drawn details, these are not exactly unique. Daniel's voice cuts in. Stop. Vanessa ignores him, speaking just loudly enough for the board members to hear. If you are seeking compensation, we can have legal contact you privately. But making accusations in front of investors is not the way to build a career. Ava's face burns. There it is. The quiet little trap. Turn theft into misunderstanding. Turn pain into greed. Turn a woman with $5 and a sketchbook into an opportunist before she can prove she was ever talented. Daniel steps between them, not dramatically, not touching anyone, just placing his body where the lie cannot pass cleanly. She is not seeking a payout. Her work was used without credit. Vanessa's smile hardens. Based on what? A lost sketch from a coffee table? Daniel reaches into his jacket and pulls out his phone. Based on the original page I photographed before it ever reached the design room. The board members exchange a look. Vanessa's eyes flicker for half a second, and Ava sees the first crack in her confidence. Daniel opens the image and holds it out. The date stamp is clear. The drawing is Ava's, untouched, still carrying her handwritten note near the chair. Leave one place for the person who almost turned around. Daniel looks at the board members. The campaign is canceled. Effective now. Vanessa's voice drops. You cannot make that decision in a hallway. I can make it on stage if you prefer. Silence. Ava stares at him, stunned, but the hurt does not vanish. One right sentence cannot undo weeks of hiding. Daniel turns to her, and his voice softens. I should have said this before anything was taken from you. Your work mattered the moment I saw it. You mattered before I knew how to admit why. Ava breathes in slowly, then steps back. Do not make this romantic because you feel guilty. Make it right because it is right. Then she walks past him toward the elevators. This time, Daniel does not follow. He turns back to the ballroom, to Vanessa, to the board, to the company that has been borrowing warmth from people it never credited. And he finally understands that if he wants Ava to believe one word he ever said across that cafe table, the truth cannot stay in the hallway. It has to walk back under the chandeliers with him. Daniel walks back into the ballroom alone, and every conversation seems to fold in on itself as he crosses the polished floor. The screen behind the stage still glows with Ava's stolen warmth, the window bench, the chalkboard menu, the little harbor birds, all bright and beautiful beneath the Whitmore name. The sight of it turns his stomach. A few minutes earlier, he might have asked for a private correction, a quiet legal review, a careful statement written by people trained to soften ugly truths. But Ava's words follow him like a hand on his shoulder. Make it right because it is right. So Daniel steps onto the stage, takes the microphone from the host, and looks out over the room of investors, reporters, executives, and guests who came expecting a perfect launch. Vanessa stands near the side wall, pale but composed, still hoping he will protect the brand before he protects the truth. Daniel does not look at her. He looks at the screen. Then he turns back to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, this presentation is over. A restless murmur moves through the ballroom. One of the board members rises halfway from his chair. Daniel continues before anyone can stop him. The creative work you have seen tonight was not developed ethically by Whitmore Hospitality Group. Key ideas shown in this campaign came from an independent designer named Ava Mitchell, whose work was used without permission, without credit, and without a contract. The silence that follows is so complete that the soft jazz near the bar sounds suddenly ridiculous. Cameras lift again, not for celebration this time, but for truth. Daniel reaches into his jacket and brings up the photograph of Ava's original sketch on the main screen. The ballroom sees the hand-drawn version, softer and more human than the polished corporate copy. The small note near the chair is visible now. Leave one place for the person who almost turned around. Daniel's voice lowers. I met Miss Mitchell by chance in one of our cafes. She did not know who I was. She spoke honestly about what our stores lacked, not because she wanted access, but because she understood people better than we did. Her vision deserved respect. Instead, our company treated it like material. That failure happened under my leadership, and I will not hide behind process, branding, or anyone else's title. Vanessa steps forward, her smile strained. Daniel, perhaps we should allow legal to review the specifics before making statements that could be misunderstood. Daniel finally turns to her. There is nothing misunderstood about credit. He looks toward the nearest board member. Effective immediately, the Harbor and Bean rebrand is suspended. All campaign materials will be pulled tonight. An independent review will begin tomorrow morning. Vanessa Cole is placed on administrative leave pending that review. Vanessa's face hardens, but she says nothing because the cameras are already watching. Daniel faces the room again. Miss Mitchell will be offered a formal contract as the lead creative designer for any future Harbor and Bean redesign, if she chooses to accept. She will retain ownership of her original work, receive full public credit, and be compensated for the use of her concepts to this point. If she chooses not to work with us, we will still compensate her, and we will not use her ideas. A reporter near the front calls out, "Are you saying your company stole from a freelancer?" Daniel does not flinch. "I am saying a powerful company benefited from the work of someone with less power, and that is exactly why the responsibility must be public." In the hotel lobby, Ava hears the words through a live stream playing on a staff member's phone. She had meant to leave, but the rain outside had forced her to pause beneath the awning, still wearing her white blouse, still carrying the ache of humiliation in her chest. Now she stands near a marble column while strangers around her slowly realize she is the woman he is talking about. A young server beside her whispers, "That is you, is it not?" Ava cannot answer. On the screen, Daniel looks nothing like the mysterious man at the cafe and nothing like the polished executive from earlier. He looks tired, honest, and willing to lose. That is what keeps Ava watching. Not the contract, not the money, the willingness. The next morning, every local business page carries the story. Some headlines are dramatic. Some are fair. Some are not. But for the first time in Ava's life, her name appears beside her work instead of beneath someone else's shadow. By noon, a courier brings a packet to her apartment. Inside is a letter from Whitmore Hospitality, a proposed contract reviewed by an independent attorney Daniel hired but did not control, a compensation offer for the unauthorized use, and a handwritten note on plain paper. Ava, this is not a gift. This is not an apology dressed as opportunity. This is credit, ownership, and the choice that should have been yours from the first morning. Daniel. Ava reads the note 3 times at her small kitchen table. Her sketchbook lies open beside it. The wrong name coffee cup from that first day is gone forever, but she can still see it in her mind, Anna in thick black marker, a mistake that had once made her laugh before everything became complicated. She wants to hate Daniel because anger would be simpler, but the truth is not simple. He lied by omission. He hurt her. He also stood under chandeliers and told a room full of powerful people that she was the one who deserved credit. 2 things can be true and still leave a heart confused. 3 days later, Ava agrees to meet him at Harbor and Bean before opening. The cafe is quiet when she arrives, chairs still upside down on tables, morning light gray against the windows. Daniel is waiting near the table where they first sat, not in a suit this time, but in a simple navy sweater and coat. He stands when she enters. "Thank you for coming," he says. Ava places the contract packet on the table between them. "I am not here because I forgive you. I know. And I am not signing because you embarrassed your company in public. I hope not." She studies him carefully. "I am signing only if every decision with my work goes through me. Every artist hired after me gets a real contract, and every Harbor and Bean employee has a safe way to report bad managers without losing hours." Daniel nods. "Already started." Ava lifts an eyebrow. "Do not perform progress for me. I am not." He slides a folder toward her. "Draft policy, third-party reporting line, store manager review schedule, and your contract changes marked in blue." Ava opens it despite herself. It is all there. Not perfect, but real. She looks up, and the anger in her face softens into something guarded. "You learn fast." "No," Daniel says quietly. "I was corrected by someone brave enough to walk away." Ava looks toward the last seat, the same chair that began all of this. For a long moment, neither of them moves. Then she pulls the chair out and sits. Not beside him. Across from him. Not like before. Not yet. But not gone either. Daniel sits only after she nods. Outside, Boston wakes under a pale sky, and inside the quiet cafe, ownership returns to the woman who drew warmth before anyone paid her to name it. 1 year later, the first redesigned harbor and bean opens before sunrise on Boylston Street, and Ava Mitchell stands in the doorway with a key in her hand, watching warm light spill across the sidewalk like the cafe itself has learned how to breathe. The stiff chairs are gone. The sad fern has been replaced by shelves of green plants near the window. The pickup counter is wider now. The menu board is hand-lettered in soft white chalk, and a long community table runs through the center of the room, already set with small cards that say take the seat you need today. Near the front window sits the same little table where everything began, polished but unchanged, with one chair tucked across from the other. Above it, framed simply on the wall, is a photograph of Ava's original sketch beside a tiny plaque that reads, "Designed by Ava Mitchell, founder of Mitchell Studio." She still pauses every time she sees those words. Founder. Not assistant. Not applicant. Not almost good enough. Founder. Her studio is small, just 2 rooms above a bookstore 3 blocks away. But it is hers, and on her desk are contracts for 3 other neighborhood businesses that want warmth more than polish. Harbor and Bean became her first official project, but not her last. Daniel kept his promise. Every artist was credited. Every store employee received a confidential reporting system. The manager from that first cafe never returned, and the young barista, whose name was Lily, now trains new hires with a kindness that changes the whole room. The company lost some investors after Daniel's public admission, but the cafes gained something harder to measure and easier to feel. People stayed longer. Employees smiled without looking over their shoulders. Customers learned the names on their cups, even when the marker still got them wrong. At 6:30, the door opens, and Daniel Whitmore steps in carrying 2 coffees from the temporary counter outside because the grand opening rush has already overwhelmed the espresso machine. He is wearing a navy coat, no tie, and the careful smile of a man who has learned not to assume forgiveness means forgetting. One cup is marked Daniel in clear black letters. The other says Ava, spelled correctly, underlined twice. Ava takes it and studies the name. Look at that. A miracle in permanent marker. Daniel glances toward the counter. Lily threatened the staff with extra training if they got yours wrong today. Ava laughs, and the sound moves through him the same way it did on that first rainy morning. Only now, there is no secret sitting between them. There are still scars, still memories that can make a room quiet. But there is also truth, and truth has made space where shame used to sit. By 7, the cafe is full. Office workers lean over muffins. Students claim the bench by the window. Mr. Harris, the older customer Ava helped on that early morning, sits near the plants with a newspaper and a smile. Ava moves from table to table, not as a server, not as a stranger, but as the woman who made the room feel possible. Daniel watches from the edge of the crowd, letting her have the center because it belongs to her. Vanessa Cole is long gone from Whitmore Hospitality, and her name only returns in training sessions about credit, consent, and the cost of treating people like stepping stones. Daniel does not miss the old version of power. It was efficient. It was lonely. This is slower, harder, better. Near closing, when the crowd thins and the last pastries are packed into paper bags with Ava's little harbor bird printed on the side, Daniel asks if she has 1 more minute. Ava looks at the clock, then at his face. You are using your serious voice. I am trying not to use my nervous voice. That is worse. He smiles, but his hand moves to his coat pocket. Ava sees it and goes still. Daniel leads her to the little window table, the first table, where the last seat waits across from his. On the wall beside them is a small glass frame holding the original receipt from that rainy morning. $4.75. Small House Coffee. Name written as Anna. Ava covers her mouth, half laughing, half blinking back tears. You kept that? Daniel nods. Lily found the order record. I asked her to print it. I wanted proof that the best thing that ever happened to me started with a mistake I had no right to control. He takes out a small box, but he does not open it immediately. I loved you when you challenged me. I loved you when you walked away. I loved you when you came back only for the work and made me earn every personal word after that. You taught me that leadership without humility is just a louder kind of selfishness. You taught me that credit is not kindness. It is respect. And you taught me that a room can save someone if the right person is brave enough to redesign it. Ava's eyes shine. Daniel. He opens the box. The ring is simple, a slim gold band with a small oval stone the color of rain light on a cafe window. "I do not want to own your future," he says softly. "I want to sit across from it, beside it, wherever you invite me, and spend my life saying your name right." Ava looks at the ring, then at the chair across from him, then at the cafe filled with every symbol of what they survived: the sketch, the cup, the receipt, the last seat that was never really about furniture at all. It was about room. Room to be seen. Room to be believed. Room to begin again. She sits in the chair slowly, the same chair she once took because she had nowhere else to go. This time, she reaches across the table first. "Yes," she whispers, then laughs through her tears. "But if the wedding place writes Anna on anything, we are leaving." Daniel laughs, full and free, as he slides the ring onto her finger. Months later, they marry in that same cafe after closing, under the warm lights Ava designed, with Lily setting out cupcakes, Mr. Harris giving a toast, and the receipt still framed beside the first sketch. And every morning after that, Daniel arrives before the rush, orders 2 coffees, checks both names, and leaves one chair open at the window, because one ordinary seat in a crowded cafe once became the place where a struggling woman found her voice, a millionaire chief executive officer found his conscience, and love finally learned to tell the truth.